Hi! For those of you new here, this is evolution simulation game The Sapling, my solo indie game project. It's a game where you can basically do two types of things. On the one hand, there are a number of scenarios tasking you to design an ecosystem that meets specific requirements. On the other, there's a sandbox where you can build your own plants and animals, turn on random mutations and see how they evolve. In the previous video on this channel, I do the latter for 7 days straight. And at the end, I promised that once this channel would hit 1000 subscribers, I would hire voiceover artist Scott Tunnix, which I found on Fiverr, to do a voiceover for this same video in the style of David Attenborough. Not only did the channel reach 1000 subscribers within 48 hours, it's currently already past 2000 subscribers. So the first 1000 took 2 years, the second 1000 took 2 weeks. Interesting how this works. All in all, enough reason to celebrate, so enjoy this David Attenborough version of the Fight and Flight simulation summary.
We start on a beautiful morning with this plant and this animal. While they are the great-grandmothers of every single species we will see, they are not very powerful, and it doesn't take long for one of their descendants to take over. The first very successful plant family looks like this. It has leaves that can survive in a lot of environments, making it an early settler. For any region, much more efficient plants are possible and will evolve and take over later. But as long as they're not here yet, these plants will flourish. The only places where they can not grow, though, are the colder areas. There we see a different, more cold-hardy family of plants emerge. This situation with two families, one quick settlers, the other cold-hardy, is something that will be stable for multiple days. And even after that, when other plant families arrive, we will see both of them around, almost until the end. The first successful animals stand out mostly by their feet, which are feet that can carry a lot of weight. This means the animal can be large and fat, and have all kinds of heavy body parts like the tusks we see here, and still be able to walk around relatively fast. These feet seem to be an evolutionary one-way ticket though. It allows animals to become really heavy. But once that has happened, this is the only foot type that can still support these animals. Indeed, all major successful animal families we will see in the future will have these feet for this reason. On the second day, we see the first forest forming on 2 locations. This is something that inevitably happens if you wait long enough, but it is a slow process. This is because larger plants need lots of energy, so smaller plants can only evolve to be larger once they are really good at collecting it. And even after larger plants emerge, they take a while to spread because their reproduction cycle is so much slower than that of smaller plants. Walking around in the forest are these heavy herbivores, mostly blind except for simple photoreceptors in their tails. They walk around randomly until they bump into a tree. On day 3, we witness a major event. The plants in the south have evolved spikes, hurting any animals that eat them. With so many herbivores around, this is a huge advantage, as they now kill whatever kills them. This forces the animals, which so far were still living as a single colony, to move to a new location. Interestingly, the population splits in 2 because of this, with some animals migrating to the west of the lake, and others to the east. The 2 groups will evolve in very different ways as a result. As an example, a day later for the western species, the photoreceptors on their tails has evolved into compound eyes, allowing for much better vision, albeit for short distances. Along with the eyes, we see an instinct that will be there in every single successful western animal species from now on. If you see the color green, go towards it. It is so successful, of course, because these animals rely on plants as their food source, and all plants are green. So this instinct basically is go to food. Not only does this help animals collect the energy they need to reproduce, it also prevents them from wandering randomly into a place that is dangerous for them. Another thing you see here is that this animal has tusks and 2 sets of horns, something which it can easily carry because of its feet. However, all of this results in long embryo development times, so at this point you often see large areas completely covered in eggs. Meanwhile, in the northeast, the first super-efficient plant has emerged, using large round leaves to maximize the amount of sunlight it can catch. However, because this leaf needs a specific temperature range that is available here, but not in the surrounding areas, this species is essentially locked into this one small spot. This creates a weird situation, with a world behaving more or less like a continuum. Except here in the northeast, where you see a sharp divide with a really different group of plant species evolving in a completely different direction. On day 6, however, these northeastern plants finally managed to break free. This happens because a species emerged with a less efficient but more heat-resistant type of leaves. Because of these leaves, this species can live in the surrounding area and thus colonize large new parts of the map. And once these plants reach other areas with more moderate temperatures, the circular leaves simply evolve again as some sort of convergent evolution within the family. At this point, most parts of the map are covered in dense forests, meaning a lot of food for all animals. Because of this, most animal species have grown to be very large as well, compared to the universal ancestor from day 1. Apart from this increased body size, the animals in the east remain relatively stable around this period. In the west, on the other hand, rapid innovation is happening. Various species over there have eyes on stalks, allowing them to look much further into the distance. This means they can get maximum value out of their go-to-food instinct, and even survive in areas where appropriate plants are few and far between. Another Western innovation is that a few species emerged that are specialized for living really high up north. To survive cold, they don't only have fur, but also a thick layer of fat serving as insulation. Something they can easily carry, again, because of their feet. On the 7th and last day of the experiment, the forests that started to form already on the 2nd day have finally conquered the entire map, meaning that for every possible environment, a plant species evolved to collect energy efficiently enough to grow really large. Interestingly though, there are no longer any large herbivores walking around. This is because spikes evolved again, like we saw on day 3. But whereas back then, the animals living in the south could simply move to another place, this time, all animals living in the east were not able to adapt to their new living environment quickly enough and went extinct. And this is how one small animal with hands living in a largely open environment in the south evolved into a small group of large tusked animals living in a cold forest on the other side of the map. If you want to experience something like this for yourself, you can. The video game The Sapling is available now in early access on both Steam and itch.